24시간 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
Coming up on Arirang News, the defense chiefs of South Korea and the U.S. agreed to bolster their extended deterrence, warning the end of the regime in case of any nuclear attacks by the North. For this, the two allies established a shared early warning system against missile attacks and update the tailored deterrence strategy for the first time in a decade. Hamas suspends its hostage deal, citing the intensifying Israeli attack near Gaza's biggest hospital. Amid the rising death toll among patients there, Israel denounces Hamas for using the facility as a shield for its command center. South Korea decides to maintain the 52-hour cap work week system, but will provide more room for flexibility for certain occupations and industries with heavy workloads, instead of the originally proposed 69 hours across all sectors. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We start with South Korea and the U.S. military strengthening their extended deterrence commitment against North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. During their talks between the two countries' defense chiefs today in Seoul, the allies agreed to establish early warning systems to be shared in real time and updated their tailored deterrence strategy for the first time in a decade. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung leads us off.
The defense chiefs of South Korea and the U.S. have reaffirmed their commitment to bolstering extended deterrence against North Korea's evolving provocations. At a press briefing after the annual security consultative meeting held in Seoul on Monday, South Korea's defense minister Shin Won-sik said he, together with U.S. counterpart Lloyd Austin, noted that they will never accept any nuclear attack by North Korea.
If North Korea does use nuclear weapons, it will face an immediate, overwhelming, and decisive response from South Korea and the U.S., which will lead to the end of Kim Jong-un regime.
Austin highlighted the milestone in Washington's deterrence efforts, saying its commitment remains ironclad.
We are continuing to strengthen our shared readiness and our ability to fight tonight if necessary.
In a joint statement following the SCM, the defense chiefs revealed that they have decided to establish a shared early warning system to share detailed information on North Korea's missile launches. This would mean South Korea would be provided with real-time data on North Korea's missile launches from Washington's early warning satellite. Also, in commemoration of the 70th anniversary of the Seoul-Washington alliance, the two sides adopted the defense vision of the ROK-US alliance for the first time since 2019. Through this vision, the two sides will pursue areas of cooperation, especially in the fields of science and technology over the next 30 years, in preparation for Seoul and Washington's 100th anniversary of the bilateral ties. The two allies have also updated their tailored deterrence strategy for the first time in 10 years. The agreement was established in 2013 for tailored deterrence against North Korean nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. The defense chiefs also stressed the need to strengthen trilateral security cooperation between South Korea, the U.S., and Japan, and continue the momentum established at the Camp David summit. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
President Yoon on Thursday will attend the Summit of Indo-Pacific Economies as they attempt to finalize the framework to deepen cooperation on supply chains, trade, climate, and governance. Yoon's office says the South Korean leader will attend a meeting of the U.S.-led Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity, or IPEF, during his three-day stay in San Francisco on the sidelines of the APEC summit. Amid Washington and Beijing's geopolitical rivalry in the Indo-Pacific region, the IPEF was launched in May last year. South Korea, Japan, Australia, Thailand, and Vietnam are among the current 14 members striving for a connected, resilient, clean, and fair economy, which represent the four pillars of the framework. Only Pillar 2 on supply chain cooperation has been finalized so far, with trade officials moving quickly to conclude the other pillars around the time of the APEC summit. Over in the Middle East, Hamas suspended hostage talks, citing Israel's attacks near Gaza's biggest hospital. Amid the rising death toll among patients there, Israel denounces Hamas for using the facility as a shield for its command center. Meanwhile, the U.S. has reiterated its opposition to Israel's occupation and governance of Gaza. Shin reports.
Hostage talks were halted by Hamas on Sunday amid fierce fighting with Israel near Gaza's largest medical center.
We hold responsible for the hospital massacre anyone who is silent or fails to act to stop it, prevent it, or criminalize the occupation, and hold their leaders accountable before the courts for international crimes.
Intense clashes have continued near Shifa hospital as Israel has accused Hamas of using the facility as cover for a command center. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that 12 people, including 3 babies, have died at the hospital due to a lack of electricity. Supplies of medicine are also running extremely low, making the situation even worse. According to the United Nations, during the past 36 days, there were at least 137 attacks on healthcare facilities, resulting in 521 deaths and 686 injuries. On Sunday, the chief of the World Health Organization uploaded a post on social media saying that the situation at the hospital is dire and perilous, and added that Al-Shifa was no longer functioning as a medical facility. The same day, during an interview, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the U.S. does not want to see armed fighting inside hospitals in the Gaza Strip and has conveyed this view to Israeli forces.
And we do not want to see a firefight in a hospital where innocent people, helpless people, people seeking medical care are caught in the crossfire.
During another interview, he reiterated the country's stance on the future of Gaza. Asked by CBS News about Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's opposition to a Palestine Authority-led government in Gaza, Sullivan cited no reoccupation of Gaza and no forcible displacement of the Palestinian people as the basic principles of the U.S. vision. He added that Gaza can never be used as a base for terrorism and its territory should not be reduced. His remarks came after Prime Minister Netanyahu emphasized his stance on Israel having security responsibility for the Gaza Strip for an indefinite period, even after the war ends. Netanyahu has made similar comments regarding Israel's security responsibility for the Gaza Strip in the past. This is in opposition to the United States' stance, as was reiterated by Washington's top diplomat Antony Blinken last week when he said that Palestinian views need to be at the center of conversations about Gaza's future. 신하영, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, protests took place in parts of Europe this past weekend, responding to the Israel-Hamas war. There were rallies against anti-Semitism in Paris, while gatherings in London called for a ceasefire in Gaza. Yoon has more.
In Paris on Sunday, more than 100,000 people marched the streets against anti-Semitism. The protest was called for by French lawmakers in the wake of a recent surge in anti-Semitic incidents in France since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. French Senate Speaker Gerard Larcher highlighted that the march signifies a total fight against anti-Semitism, which is the opposite of the values of the French Republic. Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne and former Presidents François Hollande and Nicolas Sarkozy were among those heading the march. But also present at the march were right-wing politicians, including the presidential candidate for the National Rally Party, Marine Le Pen. President Emmanuel Macron did not attend the march on Sunday, but on the eve of the march said a France where Jewish citizens are afraid is not France. Macron also condemned the confusion surrounding the rally and said instead of a united republic against anti-Semitism, the event was being exploited by some politicians for their own ends. Meanwhile, in London, hundreds of thousands of people marched on Saturday calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. London's Metropolitan Police put the number of protesters at over 300,000, while organizers say it could also have been one of the largest protests in British political history, suggesting some 800,000 people to have taken part in the march. The police reported no issues with the protest as the people marched peacefully through the city. There were, however, a few incidents of violence from far-right counter-protesters who were arrested. Saturday's march in London coincided with Armistice Day. More countries across Europe have also seen such marches. In Brussels on Saturday, about 21,000 people took part in a pro-Palestinian rally, while an estimated 10,000 people marched in the German capital in solidarity with the Palestinian people on Sunday. 이은진, Arirang News.
South Korea has seen exports increase by more than 3% for the beginning of November, with an on-year rebound of outbound shipments of semiconductors. Our An Sung-jin takes a closer look.
South Korea's total value of exports for the first 10 days of November stood at $18.2 billion, an on-year increase of 3.2%. According to the Korea Customs Service on Monday, this has been driven by a 1.3% increase in semiconductor exports, in the black for the first 10 days of the month for the first time since September last year. However, month-to-month chip exports have been in decline for the last 15 months. The overall upturn in the semiconductor industry for the first part of this month has led to optimism that chip exports for all of November may be back in the black. Exports of automobiles also saw an on-year increase of nearly 40%, while petroleum products and ship exports declined by nearly 10% and 70% respectively. By country, exports increased to the US, Vietnam, and Japan, while those to China and the EU have been falling. Meanwhile, total exports for October turned positive after a decline of 12 months, something that Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho has said that can continue.
With a recent improvement in the semiconductor industry, this recovery is expected to continue beyond October. However, as external economic uncertainties remain, it will be necessary to put efforts into diplomacy and resolving on-site difficulties to accelerate the recovery of exports.
Though the monthly trade balance is in the black for the fifth consecutive month, as the finance minister notes, responses to external factors may determine the value of exports for the entire of November. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
With major items on people's grocery shopping list still high, authorities in Korea are launching a monitoring system to keep prices in check. Our Lee Seung-jae explains.
South Korea's economy continues to struggle with inflation. While consumer prices have slowed down, the burden on everyday consumers has not yet eased. This is why the South Korean government has decided to closely manage 28 agricultural and food items of which prices have the most impact on consumers. Some of the items include bread, milk, and flour, and takeout foods like hamburgers, pizza, and chicken. Also, agricultural products like rice, cabbage, and apples have seen the highest price rises. The government plans to do its best to stabilize prices by closely managing the cost of items that are often sought after by everyday consumers. According to Statistics Korea on Sunday, the consumer price index for milk last month was at 122.03, up 14.3% from the same month last year. That figure was the highest in 14 years and 2 months in the aftermath of the global financial crisis in 2009. Additionally, sugar rose by 17.4%, ice cream by 15.2%, and coffee by 11.3%. However, compared to 2 years ago, prices of the aforementioned goods have risen 34.5%, 23.8%, and 23% respectively. The price of bread also rose by 5.5% compared to October 2022, but the increase is 21.6% compared to 2 years ago. While the price of cooking oil rose by just 3.6% on year, it's nearly 48% higher than 2 years ago. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs forecasts that the prices of the 28 items are not likely to rise any further before the end of the year, but may vary depending on variables like rising global oil prices due to the armed conflict in the Middle East. With such uncertainty still lingering, the Agricultural Ministry plans to check prices daily and communicate with related product producers and consumer groups to make sure the prices stabilize going into the winter months. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Public transport fares here also saw a surge of almost 10% on year in October. According to Statistics Korea, this latest hike is the highest in nearly 17 years and comes amid the additional late-night surcharges for taxis, as well as increases in fares for buses and subways in August and October, respectively, despite a 3% fall in travel expenses for ships and planes on year. The National Assembly began on Monday its review of next year's budget, and one of the key issues to be addressed is spending on R&D, which has been significantly reduced. The ruling People Power Party has pledged fiscal soundness and is maintaining its position on prioritizing the welfare of the underprivileged. Regarding the cutback in the R&D budget of 5.2 trillion Korean won, or about $3.9 billion, the PPP said it'll be made up for in other fields, such as basic research. The main opposition Democratic Party, on the other hand, said next year's budget does not consider the livelihoods of the people and warned of intense scrutiny of the spending plan. The maximum 52-hour workweek framework stays unchanged, but there will be some exception for selected industries. This as the government came up with a reform plan today following its earlier 69 hours weekly cap proposal. Cap proposal turned out to be unpopular. Our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin tells us more.
The government is planning to give workers greater flexibility in working overtime. The Ministry of Employment and Labor on Monday released the results of a survey conducted from June to August of more than 6,000 South Koreans on working hours reforms. The government also announced its intention to raise the cap on weekly hours for certain industries instead of the originally proposed 69 hours across all sectors.
Taking into account public opinion, the government is committed to maintaining the framework of the 52-hour working week system while making changes for selected industries and occupations.
This comes 8 months after the administration unveiled in March a proposal to raise the maximum weekly working hours from 52 to 69. This was in response to certain sectors saying that it was impossible to meet deadlines under the 52-hour workweek system. It also aims to allow for more flexibility where employees can work more when there is a bigger workload and then take extended breaks when there is less work. The proposal, however, was met with a backlash over concerns that it may destroy people's work-life balance, leading the government to backtrack and conduct a large-scale survey to gather public opinion. The survey results showed that more than 54% of people surveyed agreed to raising the cap on weekly overtime hours in certain sectors.
The demand for greater flexibility in working hours is likely to differ across industries and jobs, but the SME sector is for it, regardless of the industry and the job given, if the union and management reach an agreement.
The respondents said the manufacturing industry and jobs in production needed the rise in overtime working hours the most. Over 75% of workers and more than 74% of employers said they would most prefer weekly working hours of less than 60, making it likely for the government to limit the working week to less than this. It is unclear when the government will be able to finalize reforms, as specifics such as which industries the cap will be raised in are yet to be confirmed. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
South Korea's Hyundai Motor Company is building a new manufacturing plant dedicated to electric vehicles in the southeastern industrial city of Ulsan. The nation's largest automaker held a breaking ground ceremony on Monday at the site in Ulsan, where Hyundai Motor Group Executive Chair Chung Il-sun said this marked the start of the next 50 years of the era of electrification. The company aims to produce 200,000 electric vehicles annually at the new facility, starting in 2026. Hyundai Motor plans to invest $1.5 billion in building the 548,000 square meter EV factory. Upon completion, it'll be the automaker's first manufacturing plant constructed in Korea in 29 years. We are around 2 weeks away from the host of the 2030 World Expo being announced. To sing the praises of Busan as a potential host, a couple of opera concerts were held here in Seoul over the weekend. Our Yoon takes us to the scene.
Voting for the 2030 World Expo isn't far away. In support of Busan's bid, on November 11th and 12th, gala concerts were hosted by Arirang TV, the Korea National Opera, and the Culture Ministry. Among other performances, the Korea National Opera presented Kagok, Korean lyric song cycles accompanied by an orchestra.
Currently, we have a lineup prepared of 5 opera singers, each performing the pieces they play the best. The concert includes opera arias, Korean songs, and vocal pieces. We've also prepared a song to show support for the Busan Expo bid.
The concert aims to provide a time for people from around the world to gain an understanding of the harmony of different cultures. Classical stars representing South Korea came together, showcasing the excellence of Korea's musical talent and the country's passion to host the expo. The songs express bright messages of hope, and considering that Busan is a coastal city, there were also pieces about longing for the ocean. Many ambassadors to South Korea from different countries attended to show their support.
It was really inspiring, great performance. I'm quite confident that everybody has enjoyed it. It's an illustration of the artistic talent of Korea, and it's really keen willingness to host the World Expo 2003 in Busan. I wish good luck to Korea.
We Will Be One. The official theme song for the 2030 Busan World Expo was the concert's grand finale. The host city will be chosen by BIE member states at the 173rd General Assembly on November 28th. But as far as Busan is concerned, the message is clear.
부산 준비되어 있습니다. 부산 is ready.
이은희, Arirang News.
In other news, while it's widely known that ginseng is beneficial for the body, black ginseng made from steaming and drying fresh ginseng has been recently discovered to be effective in improving prostate health. Our Chung Eun-ju has the details.
Unprocessed fresh ginseng turns into red ginseng when steamed once and acquires a reddish hue. When this process is repeated 3 times or more, it becomes black ginseng. Black ginseng has been traditionally known for its immune-boosting properties and effectiveness against respiratory diseases. Its intricate production process and higher cost, however, have prevented it from becoming widely accessible to the general public. Black ginseng is now drawing attention for its potential to improve benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH. The Rural Development Administration conducted an experiment in which rats with BPH were fed black ginseng daily for 4 weeks. The results showed a maximum reduction of up to 16.9% in prostate weight compared to the control group. The level of a prostate-specific antigen decreased by 48.6%, and that for the factor-inducing BPH, dihydrotestosterone, decreased by 31.4%. These figures exceed those of foreign pharmaceuticals available on the South Korean market.
We confirmed that black ginseng helps with prostate health as we observed a substantial organic decrease in prostate-specific antigen and related factors.
The RDA has registered 3 patents related to black ginseng based on its research findings. The technology is being transferred to 6 companies for testing on humans. Despite recent concerns about declining ginseng consumption, the industry is optimistic about future sales.
We expect an increase in demand for black ginseng, as it's said to be good for prostate health with the application of new technology.
The RDA plans to continue research to develop black ginseng as a material for healthy functional foods and nutraceuticals. Chung Eun-ju, Arirang News.
There will be a brief respite from the cold snap until Wednesday due to the influence of a high-pressure system that will bring in a surge of warmer air into the country. Highs will be bouncing back to 10 degrees Celsius tomorrow. Conditions are especially dry for the East Coast. Cold, gusty winds are also in the forecast from time to time, which means a higher risk of wildfires. Please be careful with anything that can cause a spark. We'll see a wide variation in morning temperatures tomorrow. Seoul and Daejeon will be starting off at 0 degrees. With highs jumping significantly, wide temperature gaps of more than 10 degrees are expected. Daytime highs in Seoul will get up to 10 degrees, Daejeon 11, Busan and Jeju will be topping out at 15 degrees. On Thursday, which is the National College Entrance Exam Day, the entire nation will see showers. This weekend, morning temperatures will be plunging back to the negative territory. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that is all for this Monday night newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest newscast. Hope everyone has a great start of the week.